Let's talk about ports. Yes, those massive concrete things where ships dock, but here's the twist. China has been quietly buying them up across Latin America and the Caribbean. And everyone's suddenly paying attention. This analysis comes from a recent CSIS report, that's the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. They've built a whole database tracking Chinese port projects across Latin America. 37 projects. That's not just one or two, that's a pattern. Now, before you think this is just another China versus America, hold on. This affects all of us. The CSIS researchers looked at everything. Who owns what? Who built what? And most importantly, what risks do these ports actually pose? Not hypothetical conspiracy theories, but real, measurable risks. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. First things first, why should anyone care about ports? Think of ports as the planet's delivery system. 90% of global trade moves by sea. Every phone, every car, every packet of coffee probably traveled through multiple ports before reaching you. Latin America and the Caribbean sit right between two massive oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, and smack in the middle, the Panama Canal. It's like the Suez Canal, one of the world's most important shortcuts for ships. Control the ports and you control the flow. You see what ships are moving, you know what cargo they're carrying, you understand trade patterns. In peacetime, that's commercial intelligence. During a crisis, that's strategic gold. And here's where it gets interesting. China is not just investing in random ports. They're strategic about it. Locations near major shipping lanes, places where American naval ships refuel, ports that handle massive amounts of cargo heading to the United States of America. The CSIS report identifies 37 Chinese-linked port projects across the region. Some are fully owned by Chinese companies, others were built by Chinese firms. Some just have Chinese equipment installed, but they're all part of a bigger picture. So how much does the United States rely on this port, and how much influence does China actually have there? Let's break down the risk factors of some of these ports one by one. Let's start with number one, Kingston, Jamaica. Kingston sits at the crossroads of Caribbean shipping. Everything moving through the Panama Canal potentially passes near Jamaica. It's the 9th largest port in Latin America by cargo volume. And here's the kicker. It's operated by a Chinese state-owned enterprise. State-owned is important here. It means Beijing has direct control, not just commercial interest, actual operational control. But there's more. Just 170 miles from Kingston, US Naval Station Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Any American naval activity in the Caribbean likely involves ship movements near Jamaica. China gets a front row seat. And Jamaica itself has deep ties with China beyond just this port. Chinese firms built highways there. They financed infrastructure projects. In exchange, China gets 50 years of toll revenue. This isn't just about one port, it's about comprehensive influence. Number two on the risk list, Manzanillo, Mexico. This port is absolutely massive. It handles enormous cargo volumes heading to and from the United States of America. If Manzanillo gets disrupted, say during a crisis, it could cost the American economy over $130 million every single day. That's the highest economic impact of any port. But Manzanillo isn't just commercial, it's also headquarters for Mexico's Pacific Naval Force. Mexican military operations happen there. Joint exercises with the US are conducted there, and China has eyes on it. How does China have influence? Multiple ways. Hong Kong-based CK Hutchison operates a terminal there. China's State Bank co-financed port expansion in 2015. Chinese companies built new facilities and installed cranes. There's a security concern too. Manzanillo sits in Colima State, contested territory for drug cartels. In December 2024, authorities seized 25 tons of fentanyl precursors at the port. Most came from China. Number 3. Veracruz, also in Mexico, similar to Manzanillo but on Mexico's Caribbean coast. Another Hutchison-operated terminal. Chinese firms expanded it recently. Veracruz handles less overall trade than Manzanillo, but disruption here could still cost the US $63 million daily, and it serves as a resupply hub for American naval vessels operating in the Gulf of Mexico. In April 2025, the USS Gravely, an American destroyer, docked at Veracruz after patrolling the Gulf for a month. As US naval activity increases near the Mexican border, China gains more opportunities to gather intelligence when these ships come to port. Here's where it gets nuanced. Most people think China owns all these ports, full operational control, but that's not accurate. Of the 37 Chinese-linked projects, only 10 involve ports actually owned or operated by Chinese firms. The rest, construction contracts, equipment supply, financing deals, each creates different levels of risk. Construction projects align with China's economic strategy. They're expanding ports near mines in Peru, grain terminals in Brazil, oil export sites in Venezuela. It's about securing commodity access. These construction-only projects pose less direct risk than operated ports, but they still matter. They create relationships with port authorities, with custom agencies, with local political elites. Long-term dependencies form, and Chinese technology gets embedded. Even without daily Chinese presence, that technology can create intelligence backdoors. Take equipment, for example. Nuctech and ZPMC, these Chinese firms have installed cargo scanners and cranes at multiple ports not under Chinese operational control. In Panama's Colón container terminal, Huawei and ZTE provided 300 security cameras.
According to a recent MITRE report, ZPMC has about 70% of the global market share of container cranes around the world. And that's 80% of cranes in the United States. And of course, there are a lot in Latin America and the Caribbean as well. And there's concern that, of course, ZPMC and Nuctech could be gathering proprietary information, biometric information, proprietary commercial data from potential competitor companies, and then send that back to Beijing. And that's an issue as well. And then the last portion is of course the potential illicit activity around Chinese owned ports.
Huawei and ZTE are both blacklisted in the United States for ties to China's military, and those cameras still in place, even though Panama cancelled the broader contract with the Chinese operator. Of the 10 actively operated Chinese ports, 7 are managed by one company, CK Hutchison. This Hong Kong-based firm runs major terminals at Manzanillo, Veracruz, and both sides of the Panama Canal. Hutchison used to be seen as commercially driven, somewhat independent from Beijing, but things have changed. China's crackdown on Hong Kong eroded that independence, and China's 2017 National Intelligence Law requires all firms, even private ones, to cooperate with state intelligence efforts when asked. No exceptions.
We live in a world that's so interconnected, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, ports having such crucial information flowing through it. I think we really need to be thinking about ports as a real target for potential espionage, potential control, and potential areas in the larger scale of geostrategic strategic competition between the US and China. And so what I've been learning and hearing about a lot from fellow colleagues in the national security space, folks within and outside of government, is this concern that the PRC and various state-owned enterprises could be leveraging the 129 ports around the world for commercial purposes, but also potentially for security, espionage, and, God forbid, military purposes down the line.
Plot twist though. In 2025, Hutchison announced plans to sell 43 of its overseas ports, including all 7 Latin American terminals, to a consortium led by BlackRock for $23 billion. Sounds good for reducing Chinese influence, right? But China's regulators launched an antitrust review that could block the deal. The sale remains uncertain, and here's the concerning bit. Reports suggest China Ocean Shipping Company, a state-owned giant, is trying to acquire stakes in those same 43 ports. If that happens, China trades one form of influence for another. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Could China use these ports for military purposes? The CSIS report is clear. China is unlikely to openly establish naval bases in Latin America anytime soon. Too close to the United States. Too much potential blowback. But military presence isn't the only concern. Recent conflicts show how civilian infrastructure can be weaponized in creative ways. Ukraine's Operation Spider's Web used drones launched from shipping containers to strike targets deep inside Russia. Israel reportedly used similar tactics, smuggling explosive drones into Iran via commercial freight. China has already developed a shipping container-based cruise missile launch system. Imagine that. Military strike capability hidden in ordinary cargo. Influence at ports could help ensure such systems arrive undetected and evade inspection. Beyond direct military use, port influence enables intelligence collection, tracking US and allied naval movements, accessing maritime logistics data, understanding supply chain vulnerabilities, and during a crisis, short of war, China could deny or delay port access. Imagine US naval vessels unable to refuel at a critical moment, or vital cargo suddenly stuck at customs. That's strategic leverage without firing a shot. Now, before we move on, we need to talk about one port that didn't make it into the top 3 risk rankings, but is absolutely massive in scale and ambition. The port of Chancay in Peru. Chancay officially opened in November 2024. $3.5 billion invested by COSCO Shipping, a Chinese state-owned giant. It's one of the most expensive Belt and Road Initiative projects in Latin America, ever. Here's what makes Chancay special. It's a deep water port that can handle the absolute biggest container ships on the planet. Ships carrying 18,000 containers. That's enormous capacity. The port is 1,500 meters long, 4 berths, capacity for 1 million containers annually, and it's designed to create a direct maritime link between South America and Asia, completely bypassing the Panama Canal for certain routes. Think about that. For decades, ships from Peru heading to China had to go through either Panama or all the way around South America. Chancay cuts shipping time dramatically. It's a game changer for Pacific trade routes. $3.5 billion. Ultra-modern automation, unmanned electric vehicles, automated cranes, facial recognition systems, Huawei 5G towers everywhere, BYD electric trucks. This isn't small. This isn't scaled back. This is next-level infrastructure on a massive scale. So what's going on?
Chancay is not a major logistics hub. It is a relatively small, pre-existing port, but heavily focused on a little bit of tourism, a lot of fishing. From what I've spoken to, the police force in numbers in maybe the dozens. It's not a force that's capable, that's equipped and prepared to handle becoming one of the largest potentially shipping destinations in the Western Hemisphere. And I think that, and you're simultaneously seeing a country, the broader country context, where Peru is witnessing a significant uptick in organized crime activity. There's a lot of Peru is the second largest cocaine producing country in the world. And there's existing illegal gold trade, illegal wildlife trade, illegal timber trade, much of it tied to China. It's hard to see, I think, how having a brand new port with a direct line to one of the biggest markets for illicit commodities will not be sort of having criminal groups chomping at the bit themselves to take advantage of that.
Chancay serves multiple purposes: trade hub, resource access, geopolitical foothold in America's backyard. For Peru, the benefits are real. 8,000 jobs created, $4.5 billion in projected annual revenue, modern infrastructure, enhanced global trade position. But the concerns are also real. Chinese firms now control a critical piece of Peru's infrastructure. Western analysts worry about dual-use potential. Could this port serve military purposes down the line? China has precedent here. Djibouti started as a commercial logistics hub, later became China's first overseas military base. Now, Peru is in Djibouti. It's much closer to American interests, but the pattern makes people nervous. But let's be balanced here. This isn't about demonizing China or pretending the United States is perfect. China's ports investments often bring real benefits: modern infrastructure, increased capacity, jobs for local communities. Many countries in Latin America and the Caribbean genuinely need this investment. And the United States has its own history of economic and military influence in the region. Not always welcomed, not always benign. The key is transparency. Countries should understand what they're signing up for. Long-term contracts that hand over toll revenue for 50 years, technology that could enable surveillance, operational control during potential crises. Informed choices matter. Whether you're in India watching global trade routes, or in America watching your economic backyard, or in Latin America making investment decisions, understanding the risks helps everyone. Knowledge is power. 37 port projects, various risks involved, some high, some low, but all worth understanding. Because in our connected world, what happens at a port in Jamaica affects shipping costs in Mumbai. What happens at Manzanillo affects supply chains in California. We're all linked by these massive concrete structures where ships dock. Thank you for watching Statecraft.